Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News, and today we're going to have another chat with Trader Cobb. So, a lot of you will already know Trader Cobb, but most of you will probably be familiar with his Trader Cobb Crypto Show podcast, which is going really well, I hear, mate.
Yeah, mate, we've cracked top 10 US investing, and I think we're 26 in the business in the US and Australia and various parts of the world. I'm not 100% sure every word. My manager takes care of that, but yeah, it's going really well. Thanks.
Cool. So today we're going to talk about what's it going to take for these crypto markets to grow up and mature. So obviously we've been around for a few years now, but this is probably the first year where we've really seen mass awareness. And there's people such as yourself that might not have been aware of crypto or not knew what it was, and serious traders that are now getting into this. We'll talk about it from a trading perspective and from an investor perspective, and that's what we really want to attract, I guess, long term are those traders. So, what attracted you from traditional markets across to crypto?
Yeah, good question. Look, for me, it was the volatility. The way I explain it is if that's my risk, yeah, if that's my risk multiple. Say that's $100. Then in traditional markets, I risk my $100. If I'm lucky, I might get $300 from that $100, and that might take a while to get there. Whereas in crypto, I can still risk the $100, but with my trade, I might get 10 to 1 out of it fairly frequently. So just the amount that it moves was a really, really big influence for me to get involved once the volumes became enough for me to enter that market.
Was it the price action first, then, but then a lot of people say the price action brings them there, but the technology keeps them there. Once you go down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this than just Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, ICOs, all this stuff's very exciting, new, unique asset class.
Yeah, the charts definitely got me there. And as I was sort of, I guess it's a new market, and as much as a market's a market for me in terms of the way the charts look and everything, it was I needed to understand what that market was. Like going from trading, the UK FTSE 350 equity market to the Nasdaq Top 100, they're pretty much the same. So you don't have to research all the companies, not at all. I don't research all the crypto tokens that I trade either, but I wanted to understand the market more, and definitely looking into it. I mean, as I'm sure you and everybody else, you start off here and very quickly you dive into so many depths and layers, and just so interesting. So I did that whole, I think it was about a month or 6 weeks where I literally like wrecked my eyes, didn't sleep much because I was just reading so much on the space. So the trading brought me to the space, the industry, technology, and where it's going, blockchain as a whole, took a lot of my money in the form of investment because I believe in it so much. And I can honestly say, I've never gone as deep into anything as I have into crypto because I believe that the opportunity is just immense. I could be very wrong. I could roll the dice and lose, but I've been around long enough and I've studied enough emerging markets and whatnot to understand that I believe that this is in fact something revolutionary, and I'm willing to back myself on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk to people with some with projects and some without projects in the crypto space, but they just say, I've seen this in other industries in the past. The excitement, everyone knows that this is a new technology. It is going to, change some aspects of our life. As I said, Bitcoin and financial digital money is one thing, but all these other distributed ledger projects that different industries are going to be disrupted. We hear all these people talking about it. We hear all this excitement. So, what is it going to take for the next wave of investors and serious money to come in?
Yeah, well, I actually think we had a brief chat about this prior to going live, and you've asked me that question again, and I think that's another aspect that comes into it. There's two things. The one that we want is institutional money. We get institutional money, it becomes a legitimate marketplace, and that's how we get to our 10 trillion market cap. That's how we rival the Nasdaq. That's how we build, right? Um, there's two ways though. One is that we just see another parabolic run of Bitcoin, like we did back end of last year. We saw a couple of those last year. We see big rise like that, which brings the general public, the gambling public in. They may not know too much about it. They start by gambling and then they learn is typically a progression. And that's okay because you've got to, if you don't start somewhere, you'll never learn it. So however you start, it's important. So there's that, but I don't think that will take us to the size that we need, well, the place that we want to be, with the public only getting involved as opposed to institutional money bringing public money in. I think we still run down the same path as we are now. We don't mature as much, i.e. there's a lot of people that are, getting ripped off, and it sucks. And that's why we see, Facebook, Google, I think Twitter's even talking about it now, about banning things in crypto. It's not because they don't believe, or they're trying to shut the thing down. I don't believe that anyway. I don't see there being any business sense for them to shut down crypto. It's more about the risk associated with people getting ripped off. Now, if it happens on their platform, it's not very hard to put two and two together and see maybe a class action coming against somebody like Facebook from a big corporate litigation fund that, go and sue Facebook for $3 billion, which Facebook can afford, but they don't want to do that. So they're managing their risk. I don't think that the tech companies are out to crush or hurt the industry. They're shutting its doors. Now, once those doors get reopened after a form of some sort of regulation, I know this is a long answer, but it kind of needs to be. It's a story of what could occur. Once we do see that in a bit of regulation, I do see the form of institutional money coming in.
Yeah, and I also think we might get the high net worth individuals come in before even institutions, those people that have accumulated a lot of wealth, baby boomers. But for them, security is the big thing, and we need to have those ways of traditional on-ramps. Like I said, a Bitcoin ETF that has to hold a large number of Bitcoin would be fantastic, or multiple ETFs across multiple stock exchanges. But there's also other companies now that are developing ways for people to not have to worry, to not be custodians over their own private keys as such. As that's the big worry, that you can lose your private key and lose all your wealth that you've put into cryptocurrency. So we need to make it safer. We need to make the user interfaces friendlier, because otherwise these people aren't going to trust. And it's part of the fun, but it's why it hasn't happened yet. It is pretty hard to get your head around some of these concepts, especially if you're not tech savvy and you haven't grown up with computers as a lot of our generation has. You agree with all that?
I do, mate. It comes back to the the solution that lots of companies are trying to come up with, which is the on-ramp. How do we get people into crypto? And a lot of these people are thinking of how to get individuals using crypto, which that needs to happen as well for mass rollout and exposure. But I think, yeah, you're absolutely right, is the ease, the security side of it. If I could say to my dad, for example, Dad, you don't have to worry about all that nonsense. All you got to do is put X dollars here and they will invest it here and you will have your exposure. You can even choose, whether it be little bars that they choose or whatever it is, to choose what tokens if you want to research it, or you can just leave it to the portfolio manager to take care of a medium risk, high risk, or however they structure it. A product like that doesn't exist to my understanding. And I think if it did, with a high level of security, and that security would be underwritten. So let's say you had, XYZ fund with, the security underwritten by, say, Goldman Sachs. So if that middle company, that small fund, was to lose my private key and the wealth of whoever's invested, it's underwritten by Goldman Sachs that they will basically cover whatever those losses were. Yeah. That's where true security comes from, and that's where we can go to. I think something else to touch on as well, Alex, I'll be quick on this one, is traditional money coming in. A large chunk of wealth is controlled by a very small number of people. Now, if a large institution decides they're going to access or enter into crypto, at the moment, that's obviously small boutique firms coming in, not big players. They run the risk of, they've managed them up the family's billions for 30, 40 years, whatever it may be. And these are the people that are, oh, yes, it's very good markets. We're doing very well. Thank you, Jimmy. They're not people that are, they're happy with their dividend. Now, a big institution may run the risk of getting the nose out of joint for some of these wealthier individuals. And it doesn't take much for them to get poached. Oh, yes, it's nonsense. I can't believe they're even offering this product. I'll go across to here. And it can cause a rift between their really high net worth clients. So it's tricky for the big dogs, for sure.
Yeah, nobody wants to be first, but then nobody wants to be last once the train leaves the station. So it's very interesting. And I think one of the holdups we're seeing lately is it's so much paperwork. It is amount of paperwork to open any sort of fund, but to be custodians over private keys, and some of the investment funds that I'm advising, and I know you've advised and whatever, all these hardware wallets have to be kept in bank vaults, and who can sign it out, and it's going to be, you know, a very secure multi-day process to sell, because we've got to make sure all this crypto is offline very safely and securely. So even more complicated than a traditional fund to start up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a barrier. We'll work it out. The good thing again is that we've got, you know, if you've read the article about the brain drain on Silicon Valley into blockchain, we've got the best brains in the world in the space. I got no issue. We will solve these. When I say we, they will solve these issues that this emerging market and emerging economy has. Whether it happens in 6 months or 6 years, I'm a long-term investor in my projects. I'm not looking for. Look, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see a quick gain. That makes me very happy, but it's not my objective. That's my trading objective. It's not my investment objective.
And what about, you know, as individuals are concerned? So someone like Alan Kohler last year tweeted out calling Bitcoin a scam, and I tweeted him back saying, you know, look into this more. And a month or two later, he's selling people crypto newsletters saying this is the future. Now, you know, props to Alan for doing his due diligence and actually taking the time to learn about it. But what is it going to take for more of these people that are very much, you know, Bitcoin's a scam, there's nothing here? Is it because there's no resources? You know, the smartest people in this space sometimes are on YouTube. And as you said before, these snobby people, or whatever you want to call them, there's just not those traditional trusted outlets or resources that they used to go into to read about stocks and bonds. You've got to go to some obscure places to get good crypto information. So what's it going to take for those people of the world to go, wow, this is, A, Bitcoin is very unique, but B, all these blockchain projects, there's some real disruptors here?
Great question. My genuine belief is regulation. I think once we get regulation, and it needs to be well thought through. Like I don't mind us. This is, you know, I'm going to get some people who don't like this. I don't mind us consolidating this market for 12 months. I don't mind that, as long as during that consolidation the noise disappears a little bit, and people work on what needs to be happening, as opposed to, you know, this whole thing about making money for Lambos and going to the moon. And this, it's not so much the language. It's the desire to get rich quick. Now, businesses are built over time. You grow very quickly, you need to consolidate, and then you can look to scale. Right now, we've seen, if crypto is a business, we've seen it grow beyond belief. Now it needs to consolidate and work. It needs to come to a place where it actually works and people stop getting ripped off or making mistakes. And there is a pathway to follow to enter the market. There is a way that institutions can enter, because if it becomes regular, or when it becomes some form of regulation, it will trickle back to more money coming in. Now, when more money comes in and when more institutions come in, that's when you're going to have your new experts. Perhaps that will be yourself, Alex, or maybe I'll be there. But you know what I mean? That's when the space opens up to a larger audience, because it'll get more airtime for the right reasons. If you think about the airtime that cryptocurrency, and it's usually Bitcoin, throughout that rampant run, what are the headlines? Oh, you know, you can buy a house in Bitcoin. Here's someone in the western suburbs of Sydney selling a house in Bitcoin. You know, here's somebody taking their shirt off doing chin-ups on a bar in Bondi. Like, these are dumb news stories. They're dumb. Until we get some form of credibility, I think that the stories will continue to be dumb, and that's why YouTube is the place to find good stuff, as well as dumb shit too.
Yeah, exactly. Real world stories about, you know, remittance apps shaving the cost of money across borders and all the real world benefits that Bitcoin can provide. That's the sort of stories that, I'd love to see. So we could talk for hours, mate. We'll have to go on another episode, but it's been a great chat so far today. So any closing thoughts?
Oh, look, there's always so many to consider, but I mean, look at what I try to, each day in the podcast, I try and give a daily little bit of information for that specific day based on what's going on. If you're not on it, I think you should just for that. It's short, it's sharp, and succinct. But right now, it comes back to, and I've been saying this quite a bit lately. In a business, I've been told by a lot of the people that have mentored me over a long period of time, from a young kid, when you take yourself out of the business and start working on it rather than being caught inside of it, you can actually see what's going on. You can grow it quicker. I think a lot of people right now are caught inside of it. They're getting caught up in the Twitters, the Facebook groups, the Slack groups, the Telegram groups, and they're listening to all this crap out there about here's, one person says it's going to go up, here's my reasoning, and then 5 minutes later it's going to go down, here's my reasoning. It's so reactive. If you actually take yourself out of that and start to view what's going on, real things that are happening, who's involved in this marketplace, who's entering this space, what is happening truly, as opposed to what's the sound and what's the noise within the space, I think that will bring you back to a calm place and a place of understanding and really having a clue about what's going on, as opposed to just being somebody watching the race. You actually enter the race.
Yeah, exactly. If you've done research into good projects and you continue to learn about them, the price becomes, the least important thing, because you're excited about what it's going to do, and the time frame becomes irrelevant. It's going to succeed in the long run if you pick those good projects. So thanks for having a chat, mate. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, mate. Go on. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.